everyone, my name is Erica and I'm here to talk to you about speech communities, the reading that we had from language awareness this week. I really think that speech communities expanded and explained a lot of the issues that we explored in All American Dialects last week. I do remember saying that I think that the dialects that we have in this country, are part of what makes us diverse and interesting, part of what we call the melting pot or the salad bowl. Where we have so many different people with different cultures and experiences, and we can catch a glimpse of that through each other's dialects. However, I'm a little bit disappointed to learn through speech communities that no matter what we do to preserve that, they will eventually change and evolve and probably be recognizable from today to 200 years from today. So, the way that our speech evolves, the author described, comes down to three important factors: age, social status, and distance or location. The first factor is age, and I think that this is pretty important. Obviously, children, when they learn to speak, their speech communities are going to be their immediate family, the people who are speaking to them primarily on a daily basis, the people who the child will imitate and form his speech to match. So, and it's not necessarily that they're imitating 100%, they're more or less judging based on the reaction of the adult what is right and what is wrong. So even if a word isn't pronounced correctly, if the child thinks that they're eliciting a positive result from the adult, then he would be likely to repeat that word. I can vouch for this. My son, he speaks, he's so cute, and it's hard not to laugh and smile at him when he says things wrong. So he continues to say things wrong because we smile and laugh at him, even though they're not necessarily pronounced correctly. And then eventually that child will go to school, and their immediate speech community will change to their peers and their classmates. And they will evolve their speech to match the other children's, and the kids, they want to fit in, they want to be cool, they want to be hip, they want to speak like the other kids. So their speech patterns change as their speech communities change. And this continues on through high school. High school, the kids are a little bit cooler. They have more phrases that they either make up or they pull up from pop culture. I know that when I was in high school, we had some really weird phrases that we made up, and everybody in the class knew what they were, and they were so random. We even had the teachers in on it at one point, and I can relate to that, what the author was describing about the phrases that they had in high school and how they got their teachers in on it. I think that if I probably went to a high school now, I would have no idea what they were talking about. Know that I have some of my cousins on Facebook who are in high school, and they use slang that they pull from pop culture and music that they like and movies and whatnot. And these phrases I probably would have no idea unless they would explain to me. A lot of them are acronyms for something else, like BAE apparently it means something as an acronym. So yeah, I guess that's one example of the elder disproving, I guess, of something that the younger generation does. But eventually the elder will start to speak the same way, and eventually the younger generation will end up being the elder generation. So secondly was distance and location. Obviously back in the old days, before we had the media and phones, we weren't able to communicate directly. Pockets of dialect, they would basically be only speaking to each other, so it would be harder to hear and assimilate to other dialects. So this is why you had such a distinct pattern of speech in the Midwest, in the South, in the New England states. This is why they have such a strong accent, because it wasn't diluted with any other accents until we started to travel more and we started to communicate with each other more, and our languages started to, I guess, merge a little bit more. So, that is still definitely an issue today. However, it was a much stronger issue in the past, before we had easy means of communication with each other. The last factor that the author explained was social status. He said that in England that class was a lot more important than it was in the United States. I think that this is based on the American dream premise that if you work hard, you get an education, you can, there's a strong opportunity for upward social mobility. I don't know if this is necessarily true anymore. I do know that I've read that the millennial generation will be the first generation that will not out-earn its predecessor. So I probably will not out-earn my parents statistically. So, whether that's economic factors, it's probably just too complicated for me to even go into right now. But to answer the question, do I think that I might end up in a higher social standing than my parents? Maybe. I hope. But it's not a guaranteed thing here anymore. And I think that that's something that's been felt a lot for people. But anyways, so based on someone's education, their career, what they do in their free time, their hobbies, all of those go into social standing, and all of those have an effect on the way you speak because it has an effect on the speech community that you belong to. If you are a college student, then your immediate speech community is going to be an academic institution and your classmates. So you might be more likely to speak properly with, to make grammatical sense, to use bigger words than normal people might that aren't as educated. If you work in a specialized field, you might use a little bit more jargon. I know healthcare workers probably use more jargon than normal workers would. There's a lot of specialized words that go along with specialized field, and that speech community, if you're a nurse and you're talking to another nurse, that nurse is going to understand you, and you would have your own speech community right there where you're working. So I think it's very interesting, in closing again, just how we kind of building on the idea that we learned last week about dialects and how dialects change, and they're not really able to be preserved because no matter what we do, the influences that are in our lives and in our communities' lives, it's always changing and it's always fluctuating, and eventually we're not going to be able to recognize the dialect that we have today by the dialect we have tomorrow. And I think that it's important to remember that there is no good or bad, there is no worse or better when it comes to the speech that we use, the dialect that we're speaking. I think it's very interesting to note that when you meet somebody from a different culture, a different background, that you can kind of catch a glimpse of that through the way that they talk. So, thank you.